we are going to go into Tipperary. And I have a terrific guest here with me to share all about the county beyond its key site, the Rock of Cashel. Now, remember, if you happen to go out or meet somebody who you have heard about on the podcast, mention that you heard about them on the Traveling in Ireland podcast. So be a name dropper and share where you got the information. So today I am joined by John Cash, who I'm sure, John, you probably get a lot of Johnny Cash comments when you talk to people, yeah?
Oh, absolutely, Jody. Yes, from the time I was in school, and my mom used to always insist we christened you John, not Johnny. So,
So John is a tour guide and photographer based in County Tipperary. And I actually heard about John from his cousin, is it Rosemary or Rosemary? Now I'm blanking on that.
Rosemary, yeah,
Rosemary.
Rosemary, yeah.
She emailed me and she said, "You need to have my cousin John on the podcast to talk about Tipperary because he's a great guide." So I completely appreciate that tip. And I'm excited to kind of dig into County Tipperary with you because I think it's one of those counties that has so much to offer, but people really only know about one site, and that's the Rock of Cashel.
Absolutely, and it's something I've been passionate about over the years to try and encourage people to engage much more. There's so much more to see in Tipperary. We have a huge build heritage in the county. Just down the road from Cashel, 10 miles from Cashel, you have Cahir Castle, which has been
my favorite.
It's beautiful and used in so many iconic films. The Last Duel, The Green Knight, right back to Excalibur was filmed there back in, I think, the late 70s or around 1980, around that period. So I mean, it's actually won awards as a film location now and everything. So, and that's just one of so many sites that we have in Tipperary, and it's a huge county. Something I think maybe a lot of people don't realize, one of the bigger inland counties, so big that it had to be divided in two. So originally we had North Tipperary County Council looked after the administration of the northern side of the county, and South Tipperary County Council looked after the administration of the southern side, because the county was so big they felt it needed two different bodies to actually carry out public works and things.
Interesting. So why don't we start with kind of that marquee site, the Rock of Cashel, because it's what everybody knows, right? But also it's really dominant. It's one of those places where it's like you come around a bend in the road and all of a sudden it's right there and you can't help but gasp. It's just amazingly stunning.
It is incredible. And I have heard people comment that, it was look better from the road approaching. What people don't realize is if you don't engage with the history of the rock, then you miss out on so much. And in fairness to the OPW, the body that look after it, they've put in now QR codes that you can download the information onto your phone if you don't want to do a guided tour. But if you don't understand how iconic, not only it looks iconic, but the history from the 4th century until it was abandoned in the mid-18th century, it covers such a huge span of Irish history that you have to kind of engage with the site to get the best out of it. So that's what I would say to people: if you're going to travel, make sure you engage and learn a little bit about the actual site and the history and that.
And the OPW does an outstanding tour there. They really, really do. I can remember when Cormac's Chapel was actually open and you could go into it. You didn't have to be on a separate, I think they open it 2 or 3 times a day now, just to keep those the paint from deteriorating further, right?
Yeah, it's the amount of moisture with the numbers that they get at the Rock. You're talking at the height of the season, it can be anything between 3,500 and 4,000 people a day. With those kind of numbers, if everyone were going into the chapel, the amount of moisture they're putting into the sandstone was actually deteriorating the inside of the chapel and the paintings, as you say, the royal paintings. So it's to control that. So they've now actually changed it back that 50 people on each general tour can be taken inside the chapel at the end of the tour. And if you come at the right time of year, you won't have 50 people on your tour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you would get into the chapel if you wanted to. In summertime, you may be unlucky that you arrive up just before the tour starts and they say all the wristbands for to go into
Mm-hmm.
Cormac's chapel are already sold out, you know. So that's a risk you take, but at least now you're guaranteed with, if there's say 6 tours in the day, 300 people at least will get to go inside and see the inside of the chapel.
So what would
And
you
it does,
go ahead? I'm sorry.
sorry, yeah, it does depend. Some people are more interested in history than others, and
Mm-hmm.
that's something
Mm-hmm.
I'm very conscious of, a tour guide, to be able to maybe, you know, talk about other aspects, sport and other aspects of our heritage as well, that you can engage maybe with people or young people who wouldn't feel they'd have the same interest in history as I have. I have a
Mm-hmm.
huge
Mm-hmm.
interest since I was very young, but I mean, I'm very conscious that you cannot just talk about the history all the time either.
Mm-hmm. So
You know,
at the Rock of Cashel, I usually tell people 90 minutes minimum to really take it in, um, get the full story, explore the area. But if somebody is, they have children with them that just aren't going to have that attention span, or their itinerary is tight, which happens a lot.
yeah.
What are the key sites, the key spots at the Rock of Cashel that you
Well,
think people should be making sure they're experiencing?
okay, well, I mean, the rock, in the rock itself, try to get in to see the Vicar's Choral. It's
Mm-hmm.
refurbished. It gives you a lovely idea how these medieval buildings would have been furnished and everything. There is also an audio visual which only lasts 18 minutes. And that's put on every half hour, starting, we'll say, 9:30 in the morning, 10:30, like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you a good feel for, not just to help you with actually the history of the rock, but our Irish history, as you would be traveling around the country and going to other areas and that, you know.
Okay. Very
So
interesting.
in the town, if you're going downtown, it's now Cashel is a great town to eat in. There's some really
Mm-hmm.
nice restaurants,
Mm-hmm.
pub restaurants, things like that. But you also have the walls of Cashel. So if you wanted to just take a wander, if you had the time to take a wander around the town, there's plenty of other things to see in the town as well. You know, I have done 3 hour tours of Cashel, so.
It's really a lovely town.
It is a beautiful town, yeah. Now, I mean, I'm actually not originally from the town, but my mother and my wife are from the town, so I have very strong connections to the town and that. My dad is originally a North Tipperary man, so I have actually strong connections throughout the whole county of Tipperary, I suppose, you know.
So, spreading out into the county of Tipperary, why don't we go to Cahir Castle next? Because we've already mentioned that. And as I said, that is my favorite castle, I think, in the entire country, which is saying a lot. So, why don't we
Yeah.
go there and then let's spread out a little bit more across the county and just kind of touch on some of the other things people might want to keep in mind when they're planning their itinerary.
Itinerary, sure, yeah, no problem. Yeah, Cahir Castle, as you say, it's absolutely stunning on the banks of the River Shore. There's a beautiful walkway actually along the River Shore down to the Swiss Cottage, which was a folly slash fishing lodge for the Butler family, who were the predominant family. Even though Cahir Castle was actually originally built by the O'Briens, who were descendants of Brian, the famous Brian
Mm-hmm.
Boru from Irish history, the probably the most famous High King of Ireland. Um, it was predominantly actually lived in by the Butlers, who would have been an Anglo-Norman family that moved to Ireland after the Norman conquest of
Mm-hmm.
Ireland in the late 12th century. So um, just stunning, absolutely, as you say. But the whole location with the river running by it, they've now built up, they have ducks, geese along there for smaller kids. You can put a 50 cent, I think it is, into a machine. You'll get out food to feed the wildfowl with and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's interactive things as well, and they're constantly seem to be adding it. There's the walk down to the Swiss Cottage. There's wildflowers now planted along it, and you get beautiful biodiversity and butterflies, damselflies, dragonflies. I mean, you know, kids certainly. I've watched kids; they just seem to be amazed with it anyway. So if you've younger kids, that's a good spot with everything that's going on there. You know.
Right. And I think what I love the most about that castle is it's almost a dungeons to battlements exploration.
Yes.
And you used to be able to actually go on the battlements. They don't let you do that anymore. But you can get, I mean, there's a tower at the edge over the river. You can get up onto the top of that, you know, down into the dungeons, into the rooms. And then there's, I think I always tell people this, there's that the little cafe, is it Riverside Cafe or whatever, that's just
Cafe,
across the street.
That's right.
And they make a great sandwich. And then you go behind the castle and you have a picnic. And it's
Yes.
just, it's an ideal place.
Yeah, and totally. Yeah, I mean, beautiful grounds there, and loads of benches in there now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get any kind of a nice day, it is absolutely fabulous to just sit out there.
And so few tour buses. I mean, very few people stop.
It's amazing. Yeah. We get a lot of people. I would talk to a lot of people, even maybe down the town in Cashel, visitors. Hi, how are you? Are you having a nice trip? Whatever. Just kind of get some feedback. The amount of people who would tell me, yeah, we left Dublin, we went down to Glendalough, we went from Glendalough to Kilkenny City, we're going to the Rock of Cashel, we're going to grab something quick to eat here now in the town, and then we're going to be either in Kinsale or Killarney or something later.
Or Blarney.
Or we're going to Blarney to kiss the Blarney Stone. And
yeah.
So yeah, it does. It makes, and one thing I have always, you know, if you have any ties to Ireland, or even going back, any family members further back in your family that have ties, try to talk to people about the names. The connections are amazing, you know, the way we can tie the names together in different areas and that type of thing. And if you talk to the right people who have a little bit of knowledge, they can tell you so much about maybe where a family came from or things like that.
Oh, well. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. So
yeah, you do need
else?
to slow down just a little. It's a small island, but I think people forget maybe our road system isn't quite up to what you'd be used to in North America or the USA and places. So for a small island, you do need to give yourself a little bit of time, I think, to really enjoy it, you know. I mean, just to talk about ourselves, we're going back to Italy for our third time in less than 10 years this year on holidays, simply because I think it's better to immerse yourself into different regions and learn about those, rather than trying to see the whole country in a week or 2 weeks or something like that, you know. So, and I understand that the USA is much further away and much more expensive to travel to Ireland too. So I'm not trying to suggest
it is something that I talk with people a lot about, you know, trying to slow down and only take in a part of the country. But I think the great thing about Ireland is that you can take in maybe just a quarter of the country, but still get all of those experiences that you would get. You know, you have, let's say, the Cliffs of Moher over here. Okay, well, if you're in the southeast quadrant where you're going to take in Tipperary and Cork, well, maybe you visit Ardmore in Waterford. You've got beautiful cliffs there. You know, so you can find all the experiences in each quadrant. You're just not getting the names, I guess, that people are used to, or that they feel like are that bucket list.
Yeah, as a base, Tipperary is quite central. It's good from the point of view is you can make the Cliffs of Moher in under 2 hours. If you want to go to Kinsale, it's about an hour and a half drive. And of course, Kinsale is gourmet capital of Ireland, they say, with all the beautiful restaurants they have. And it's twinned with Newport, Rhode Island, actually. So you have that, you have the sea there, and it's the start of the Wild Atlantic Way. So if you get to Kinsale, you can say, well, I was on the Wild Atlantic Way as well, you know. So you can actually cover quite a bit from a central base. North Tipperary is also part of the Shannon region. So if you go to North Tipperary, you're covering the Shannon area. You can go to Ballina and cross over into Killaloo in County Clare, where Brian Boru was from Killaloo, actually. So, you know, you're very central in this area. And look, none of us want to see people spending all their money in Tipperary. We understand they want to see more of the country and they want to experience as much as possible. But I'm just throwing it out there. Don't write Tipperary off either.
Let's talk about then a few other spots that people might want to keep in mind when they do come through Tipperary, instead of, making the one stop and getting out. Let's say that they plan to spend a night in Tipperary and really take in, a solid, day in
A
Tipperary.
day
What else
trip.
would you recommend?
Well, okay. If it's scenery you're looking for, then you have the Glen of Aherlow, which is beautiful scenery. It's situated, the glen is actually between the Galtee Mountains and the Slieve Mountains. Beautiful area. If you're into early Christianity or anything, or even pre-Christianity, pagan, there's a series of wells in the Glen of Aherlow. Many believe they were all pre-Christian places of worship, and when Christianity came to Ireland, they became Christian places of worship. So you've St. Picon's, St. Sedna's, and St. Berahurt's well and Holy Kyle. So you're really getting a feel for the old ways of maybe
Mm-hmm.
the early Christianity in Ireland. I would call them secret sites. They are, like, most people will never get
Oh,
to
right.
experience these. But I mean, if you had the time, you have that. If you had maybe teenage kids and you're looking for something that they could do, Mitchelstown Caves, even though Mitchelstown is in County Cork, the Mitchelstown
Mm-hmm.
Caves are right on the Tipperary border, actually. We'll claim them. But there's an outdoor activity centre there, Galtee Extreme
Mm-hmm.
Activities. So there's archery, there's climbing walls, both indoor and out. So if you got a wet day and you're looking to put down time, um, I know there are things they can do at home, but sometimes you have to compromise and say, oh, look, we're going to give a half a day that they can do what they want to do so that
Mm-hmm.
we can enjoy the rest of the day. My own two sons are grown up now, but I know when they were teenagers, you tried to compromise and do
Yeah, of
something with
course.
them as well, so that it's their holiday as well. So there is actually quite a bit of activity like that you can do,
Mm-hmm.
that you can make it a family affair. Like I say, the caves are fabulous, and actually they hold concerts occasionally in the caves because they're just beautiful. The sound that carries through the
Fascinating.
caves. Yeah, so there are, like, you can mix it up. As I
Mm-hmm.
say, this area is renowned for horse racing, and there are 3 horse
Yeah,
racing
I was
tracks.
just going to bring that up. It's kind of part of the whole equine horse country area, which is something that the tourism board is actually focusing on in this. Well, actually, it's just started. I had a chat with Laura McGee from Horse Country
Right.
not that long
Okay.
ago, and yeah, the horse breeding and the equine in that area is just phenomenal.
It's huge, huge. And many say that, especially for steeplechase horses, it's
Mm-hmm.
because of the
Mm-hmm.
limestone base that it helps to strengthen the bones of the horses when they're eating the rich grass that has a limestone base in it, and that. So it helps, the calcium helps to strengthen the bones. But either way, it is huge in this area. As I say, in County Tipperary, we have 3 horse racing tracks. So there's horse racing on different days, and those in summertime, especially evening meetings. But there's also pony trekking. There's
Mm-hmm.
quite a
Mm-hmm.
number of people, and there's a place in the Glen of Aherlow that I've already mentioned that offers pony trekking. So you can experience maybe Ireland in a different way, on horseback rather than driving around in the car all the time. If you're
Right, get
someone
out.
who's into maybe art, then one of our most famous stained glass window artists in Ireland is a man called Harry Clark. And down near Clogheen, we have St. John's Church there in Duhill, and that has Harry Clark windows in it. So if you wanted to experience something like that, you can maybe visit there. And then Clogheen is the gateway to the famous, what's known as the V,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is a beautiful drive across towards Lismore in County Waterford. And
Yes,
it's literally a V that was carved out of the Knockmildown Mountains by glaciers during one of the ice ages. It's
the
stunning,
views in the V Gap are stunning.
stunning, absolutely, yeah. So I better not leave out North Tipperary. So you've Nina Castle up there. It's small, but what you have is Gary Kennedy is on the Shannon, beautiful place. And Brian Brew's father was a Kennedy. His
Mm-hmm.
name was Canada Mac Larkin, which means Kennedy, son of Larkin. And in Gary Kennedy, which Gary means the garden of the Kennedys, you actually still have a Larkin's pub. So like his two names are still represented in the area. Like to me, it's just incredible, you know, the way the names have.
Right. And that's what you said at the beginning. If you know the names and you understand the meanings, you're going
Meanings.
to learn so much about an area that you're in.
Yeah, and it does. And people, like there's always local people, and people are very good. If they don't know, they'd say, "Oh God, Tommy up the road, I'll bet you'd know that. I'll ring him for you and I'll ask him." Like they are, if you ask the questions, in the most, you'll always meet the odd one who'll go, "No, I don't know anything." But for the most part, people try to be helpful, you know. They try to, I've seen people go out of their way now. Really, people have rang me at times. I'd be in the middle of a walking tour and my phone would be ringing, and when I'd ring back afterwards, they'd say, "Oh, we were here in Golden and someone asked us a question." We said, "Oh, John Cash is the man to ring," and I had your number in my phone. You know, they really do. They would try to help people as much as possible. So try to ask questions, and people will help you. You know.
Yeah, Ireland. I mean, one of the things that people always say is, you know, the Irish are so friendly. The Irish are so friendly, and that's one thing I'm asked often are people really as friendly? You know, is this something that's kind of piled upon, or you know, people can't be that friendly? And really, you know, they just are, especially when you get out into the more rural areas, I think, where there's less busyness, less hurry.
I was just
Yeah,
say, people
you
that have
stop and you
time
chat.
that will always take the time to. But then, like one of the great sayings is, if you want something done, ask someone who's busy. Sometimes it's the person that's busy. If you catch them at the right moment, will go, I'll take a few minutes and I'll help you there. You know, so like I do think that for the most part, and like I said, there's always exceptions to the rule. And apologies to anyone listening who has had a bad experience, who met someone rude, who kind of ignored them or walked away and said, "No, I don't know anything about that." For the most part, I think if people will take the time and they will try to be helpful, you know.
Of course, of course. So, John, you are incredibly knowledgeable. Like I said at the beginning, you're a photographer. You have had your works published in places that people have probably seen and have,
Yeah.
you know, and would not connect you with that. So what would you say? I always ask about the three things you shouldn't miss in an area, but I think with you, what I would like to know is, what are the three places in Tipperary that you think are like the most incredible places to photograph? Where are you going to get those pictures that are just going to take you back?
Okay. Wow.
I know
I
that's a
can
tough
only
one.
pick three.
I threw this at you really kind of off
No,
the
no,
cuff.
you're fine. Yeah.
So,
No,
but yeah,
Jody.
I'm thinking pictures. What would you say are your favorite
Well,
places to
one of
photograph?
my favorite places to go is a place called the Clare Glens. Now, it's not in County Clare. It is in Tipperary, but it's the River Clare, and it's a beautiful, but it has lots of waterfalls. As the river is coming down off of the hills and mountains, you've got waterfalls, beautiful places along it, beautiful deep pools.
Probably
It is a
incredibly peaceful.
Yeah, it is. That's what I was about to say. It's so peaceful as well. Yeah. Now, again, at certain times of the year, there'll be lots of people out walking there. But for the most part, if you go there any time, maybe early morning, late evening, you can literally have the place to yourself, you know. And it's very close to a place called Rare Cross. Rare Cross has a cord cairn, which is over 5,000 years old. So if you wanted to again experience some of that Neolithic or Mesolithic history, the late Stone Age or early Bronze Age, that Cork Cairn was a place for cremations.
Oh.
But you also have a wedge tomb there, again, thousands of years old, which is known as the Laba of Diarmid and Grania. And Diarmid and Grania were the young lovers. Grania was the wife of Fionn McCool, who ran away with one of his Fianna and one of his soldiers, Diarmid. And all over Ireland, you have lots of labas of Diarmid and
You were
Grania. They were
everywhere.
either very tired or very amorous. but, but yeah, when people couldn't explain, they made it up. and a wedge tomb with its flat stone lying across the top looks like a bed. There, the labba is bed in Irish or Gaelic, and of Diarmid and Grania. So the bed of Diarmid and Grania, and like I said, there's a number of them around Ireland, but that's where our wonderful folklore and our Shanakees, the old storytellers, come from. They were paid.
Right.
The better your stories, the more you got paid, or the easier it was to earn a living for yourself.
Right.
So, and that's where, and it's the same in every tradition, let it be Native American or the Norse or Greek or Roman mythology. If there was a feature in the landscape that you couldn't explain, it'll be grand, make it up. No one else knows the answer anyway.
Right. Yeah. You tell it with a straight face and you're going to get believed.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Yeah. So, yeah, that's, so, you know, that hidden history to me is important. And for any of your listeners, if they come to Ireland, if they want to contact me, and I'll just give them recommendations even. I'm a great believer in just trying to help people, because it all comes back some way in the long run, you know.
So what is the best way for people to contact you, John, if they're coming into Tipperary and they want to maybe have you give them a tour, or you know, or if they just want information? That's a very very generous offer.
No,
And
well,
you know, you can probably expect a few hundred emails coming your way. But
yeah, well, my email is John Cash, GIP. The G is for golden, the I is for Irish, and the P is for photography, @gmail.com. I also have a page on Facebook called Love Tipperary. Now it's LUV, Love Tipperary. The other love was gone, so I had to
take what you get.
But yeah, and I'll be honest, I hadn't been as active on that for a while. I am back now trying to do more on that. But if anyone messages,
there's a message button there.
Yeah, message me through Love Tipperary on Facebook, and I will be more than happy. On Instagram @John Cash GIP also. I'm on Instagram there, and again, if you follow me there, then you'll be able to send me a message on Instagram as well, or whatever.
And all of my listeners know that all they have to do is hit the show notes, and that information will be there, so they can find you easily. So before I let you go, John, I am going to ask one more, probably a little bit of a tricky question, because you obviously you love Tipperary, you love history. So this is actually a question I haven't asked in a long time of anybody, because I like to kind of focus on the small area. But because you are a photographer, you are a historian, what do you think are 3 places in Ireland that are the most important for people who may be coming back to, you know, their family came from there once upon a time, or they feel a draw to Ireland? I know a lot of people kind of have that gut feeling of, you know, this is where I need to go. What would you say are 3 really important spots that people should keep in mind?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about, I would always say try to reach out to someone. And again, people can reach out to me. If you have a surname, you can be sent specifically to a particular area, because we'll say predominantly now the surname O'Sullivan, which is O'Sullivan, him of one eye is what it means.
Him of one eye.
Yeah. There's
a story there.
Absolutely, a great warrior and that, but they actually believe it is that he looked like, if you look at a bird of prey, an eagle, you can only see one eye at any given time. And that he was like an eagle, or soaring, you know, into battle or whatever, and that's where the name came from. But anyway, sorry. So they'd be now predominantly associated with West Cork and the Beara Peninsula, those areas. But originally they came from Tipperary, and again, I'm not trying to claim it, I'm just using names that I would be very familiar with. The Hill of Knockgraffin, which actually translates to Irish as the Hill of the Fort of Fionn. from Irish. That's the proper pronunciation. Rats is a fort, and it's been anglicised to Knockgraffan, but it's actually the hill of the fort of Fionn McCool. That's where the O'Sullivans originated originally, if you go right back to the early history of Ireland. And they got driven off their land by different invaders, and they eventually ended up in West Cork. So I'm saying to people, try to make some connections to find out. The Hill of Tara is some place that a lot of people don't go. And yet you were standing on the seat of where the High Kings of Ireland stood. Every single Celt or Irish person would have had to have a connection to the Hill of Tara, because that's where the High King came from. You have Brunabonia or Newgrange close to that as well. So if you're in that area, you can do a number of places. Just across the border in Northern Ireland, you have Navan Fort, again, huge significance in Ireland. I mean, I can tell you, I visited so many places. Yeah, I'm not trying to cop out. It is so hard to just name three. If you go further down, then I mean, just for towns, for experiences, Dungarvan in Waterford, which is close to Ardmore that you mentioned earlier, Jody, is a beautiful town, and there's beautiful places now on the waterfront to eat. And if you're the type of person that just wants to sit and relax and watch the world go by, you know, you couldn't do a lot worse than visit the likes of Dungarvan and places like that. Kinsale is the same, but Dungarvan isn't as commercialized. So I think it's a little bit more relaxed, and you're maybe able to chill out a little bit more in places like that. Yeah. So look, it is, all I will say is take your time. You don't have to try and cover 300 miles every day. It is a beautiful country. The people will engage with you. If you meet the right people, certainly they'll engage with you, and you will have wonderful experiences and wonderful stories to tell when you go home. And I think that, you know, to have those experiences and connections is as important as seeing 50 places around the country. I mean, again, I would say the Cliffs of Moher are beautiful. But if you're heading towards Donegal, the Slieve Lee Cliffs are absolutely spectacular. And the colours, if you go at the right time of year, with the grey stone, the purple of the heather, and the green of the grass, like, it's just incredible. So,
and Ireland's an island. There's cliffs all around it.
There's cliffs all around it. You have the Glens of Antrim if you go into Northern Ireland. You have the Walls of Derry and what's known as Free Derry, which was the Catholic section of Derry or whatever. So if you want the more modern history of what happened in Ireland, maybe through the Troubles, there's something for everyone. I will put it that way. Like, you don't have to stick to the early history or the medieval history. There's that more modern history. And of course, the USA had played a strong hand in getting what is now the Good Friday Agreement. So, I mean, you can go to Belfast and places and experience all of that as well, you know?
Yeah, but that's not to say that up in that area you don't also have that very old history. You have, because you have the stone circles, you have the
Giant's Causeway. John McCool built a causeway over to Scotland so he could fight a giant in Scotland. I mean, come on. You can't beat these stories.
No better
at
stories.
The Slieve Lee Cliffs, there's a rock feature that looks like a table and chair, and they say that's where Fionn McCool used to sit to eat and that. Like, so the giant's table and chair at the Slieve Lee Cliffs. The stories are all over the place, and it's wonderful, you know, and that's why I try not to be too insular. I love Tipperary, don't get me wrong, but the rest of the island is beautiful as well, and you know, so
we might not have helped with the overwhelm of planning a trip there at the end, John, but I know,
yeah. But it is so hard. That's why I genuinely mean that. If people contact me, I will help them.
So kind. So,
not at all.
John,
and I have to say, to the staff in Irish chauffeur travel, send their regards.
Yeah.
So I do a little bit of work with Alma, Grania, Orla, and Shane, all the guys, Sam. I can't name them all now. I'm going to leave someone out.
They're stellar.
Yeah, they're brilliant. Yeah. So they sent their regards. I was talking to Alma the other day. I said I was hoping to be on the podcast, so she said make sure and tell Jody we said hi. So I've done that.
That's wonderful. Well, John, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, for sharing kind of the highlights of Tipperary, and gosh, so much information about the rest of the country. You are truly a wealth of knowledge, and I hope people will reach out to you, check out your Facebook page, your Instagram, see all your amazing pictures, and
okay, no problem.
and get
All
some
right, Jody. Thank
inspiration
you
from
so
you.
much for inviting me to come on. I really appreciate it. Take care then.
Give me 1 second here. We're going to make sure that everything is uploaded before you go.
Okay, no problem.
Still says it's got a couple of seconds left.